Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey, are you an aging athlete? Are you over 40 and struggling to get your desired results? I understand your frustrations. If you're like me, you're trying to get your running back or your cycling back or whatever sport you love to do, and you just can't figure out what's missing in your performance gains. How is your training and fueling program working for you? That's what I do. I personalize your nutrition and health program for you based on a bunch of different things. We collect data, collect clues from nutritional therapy assessment, from a food log with symptoms. Look at your genetics. If you've done something as DNA Fit, look at blood chemistry panels. Let's look at functional lab tests as a Vibrant Wellness wheat zoomer to test if you have leaky gut and sensitivity to wheat, peptides in foods. Look at food sensitivity labs. And Dutch tests, look at your hormones. So we look at all these hidden internal sources of chronic stress that may be impacting your ability to burn fat, improve performance, and longevity. So if you want to talk about how we can personalize your fueling, training, and performance plan, let me know. Set up a discovery call. Head to my website, debbiepotts.net, and reach out. Set up a call and we can chat about how I can help you be the best version of yourself. So you can stop blaming the aging process and instead change your mindset that you're embracing the change, that we train differently in our 40s and up versus what you did when you're 20, 30-year-old. We need to adjust how we eat, when we eat, why and how, but also match our nutrition with our exercise program and add some more health building lifestyle habits into our day. I call this all the holistic method comprehensive coaching program, where I work on individualizing clients' nutrition, exercise, stress reduction, sleep, movement, time outside, digestion and gut health, hydration, and my favorite, happiness, play, and laughter. So if you want to know more how you can be your best self, live your best life, and perform your best, head to debbiepotts.net, schedule a discovery call with me, and we can get started on your new health building journey. You can be that amazing athlete and stop blaming the aging process. What are plant anti-nutrients? Why are plants bad for us? I used to eat a plant-based diet filled up, I thought, on the best healthy foods I could do every day. Big, huge bowl of salad, maybe a little bit of protein, some olive oil and sea salt, and thought that I was being a good person. But other people may see different because plants can be toxic. They have what's called anti-nutrients. What are anti-nutrients? If you go to Shawn Wells, an amazing person, very smart person and easy to love, he has a guide to your lectins, phytates, and oxalates. Great information. So let's go over what Shawn explains in his guide about what are anti-nutrients. They're natural chemicals produced by plants that can cause negative health effects and that interfere with the normal absorption of nutrients, minerals, and vitamins that they provide. Anti-nutrients are a plant's defense mechanism to prevent any animals from eating them by causing harm, toxicity, and sometimes death. Animals either evolved to adapt to these chemicals or they stopped eating a particular plant when they realized it made them sick. So, what I question, are plants good for us or bad for us? As I find with everything I learn about and through my journey of life, and explore different topics on fueling and training and performing our best as we age. Plants, as other things, are not good or bad. It's the right dose of everything. What do I call this? The Goldilocks effect. Not too much, not too little, just the right dose to create a positive effect, or perhaps not to create a harmful effect. So acute stress versus chronic stress. What acute stress is what we term hormesis, hormetic stressors that are going to make us stronger by giving us something that might not be great for us in large quantities, but in small quantities, it just makes us stronger, as in exercise, interval training, lifting heavy weights, fasting, eating food, cold showers, sauna. Everything is good in the right amount for you as a bio individual. So Shawn Wells talks about in this great guide, so you can learn all about these anti-nutrients. Plants aren't all that good as we thought. Shawn writes, we've been brainwashed into believing that all plants are super healthy, nutritious, and the ideal health food. Eat your fruit and vegetables. Yes, he says, we've been told this for years. But while we know plants do contain plenty of nutrients that are indeed healthy for us, there are thousands of research studies that we probably don't get to see providing evidence for the fact that plants actually contain anti-nutrients. These are the compounds that oppose the action of all the beneficial nutrients found in plants. So what gives? I thought I was being so healthy having a salad. I was a salad queen until recently when I started focusing on protein, animal-based diet in 2019. Before that, I was all about vegetables. Ask anyone. College, I was a queen of salad bar. Favorite place to eat was something with a salad bar or a big, huge salad. I started to realize over the years, I was still hungry after I ate a big salad. I was never really full and satisfied until I realized I fill up, not on fat. Fat I still will overeat, but protein with fat or protein. So I can eat a 16-ounce steak and feel full with some maybe butter and sea salt on top. But I'm not anti-plant, but I just found this fascinating after my previous majority of my life focusing on this healthy role model type of diet I was following. Lots of vegetables. So if you are one of those having a kale smoothie with tons of spinach in it, you might want to think twice about that, because if you're doing that, as I get a lot of clients do this smoothie with kale and spinach and all this stuff in it every day, well, that's probably not a good thing. Actually, I find anything you do every day doesn't, except for maybe brushing your teeth and all that kind of stuff. But if you eat the same food every day or do the same workout every day, it's probably not creating the same effect. Same if you did sauna every day for an hour, it might not be great. So what are the anti-nutrients? Let's get the summary of anti-nutrients. Phytates, they're indigestible protein that travels through the gut unchanged. In high quantities, this will damage the gut wall. They bind to nutrients and stop their absorption. Not so healthy. And then there's oxalates. Oxalates are a compound found in many plants. Oxalate binds to minerals and stops their absorption. 80% of kidney stones are formed from calcium oxalate. And then there's lectins. Lectins serve as the main storage form in phosphorus in seeds. They bind to minerals and stop their absorption, but also have some health benefits. So where do you find phytates? These are almonds, beans, Brazil nuts, lentils, corn, peanuts, which most people don't have the ability to do well with. Wheat, same thing, not so good. And soybeans, what are oxalates? Spinach, talk about those spinach smoothie lovers. Rhubarb, rice bran, buckwheat, almonds, which I'm trying to not have almond butter so much. Wheat, potatoes, and soybeans. And then wheat, again, this is why I have a wheat-free diet, because wheat is not good for me, probably not for you, and it's in everything, including phytates, oxalate, and lectins. So wheat is in lectins, soybeans, red kidney beans, peanuts, tomatoes, potatoes, and chickpeas. So very interesting that we think we're taught for years and years, decades, vegetables are the way to go. A plant-based diet is where to go. Again, I'm not anti-vegan, vegetarian. I get it. I was doing just a couple types of protein, animal meat, until 2019 when I realized everything I was deficient in when I did nutrient tests was found in red meat. And I had a steak and I felt amazing. I had to be a closet eater because people would make a big deal that the majority of my life, 40 years, I was eating a plant-based diet. I was one of those people back in the day that would try to get all their protein from soy and tempeh and all these vegan products. That was 20 years ago. And I thankfully never jumped on the Beyond Meat bandwagon because that stuff is disgusting. So these anti-nutrients, they're nutrient sapping phytochemicals, silently preventing us from getting all that we need from nutritious fruit and vegetables as we thought. Quote, nutritious. They're not so nutritious as we thought because they're blocking our ability to absorb the things. The reason we're eating those foods are because we are told they're healthy because of the nutrients, micronutrients in the food. But if they are blocking our ability to absorb minerals as calcium, magnesium, well, they're not good for us. It's counterproductive. Not only that they block our ability to absorb these minerals, these nutrients, but they can make their way into the bloodstream, bind to certain cells, and trigger immune response, causing cellular damage, inflammation, and Shawn writes, a whole host of unwanted symptoms. So, as he says, I agree. Not everyone needs to eliminate all of these anti-nutrients from their diet. We are all unique, and everyone is why I do functional lab testing. And if people can pay for a test as through Vibrant Wellness, we can identify doing labs as the Zoomer test and micronutrient tests and leaky gut, GI map tests, oxalates. We can find also in a Dutch test, metabolites. We can also get more information from organic acid test, a urine test as well. So are you under a lot of chronic inflammation because your body, the food that you're eating that you think is healthy and good for you, is triggering an immune response, causing inflammation to be in a chronic inflamed state? So you want to look at your blood chemistry assessment. Listen to my last episode on how to look at, from a functional lens, a comprehensive blood chemistry panel, which I could not get my doctor, even though she was great, but the insurance company wouldn't cover all the labs that I got her to order. It was way cheaper for me, if I knew that in advance, how horrible my insurance company is, to go to LabCorp or Own Your Own Labs or Alta Labs and get the order myself. So then we can identify, do you have issues with oxalates? Do you have issues with lectins? We can identify in some tests. So might be more genetic. It might be because you're having them every day. You have multiple stressors in your body. If you have joint pain, think about that. I know a lot of people that have joint pain. So as Shawn writes in this article, that you might be sensitive to lectins in tomatoes, and then you feel sharp joint pain the next day after eating them. Might not correlate that information together. You can eat tomatoes all day long without having negative effects. Maybe you don't connect the dots that what you ate is why your joints hurt, why your back hurts or your knee hurts. So there's a reason the carnivore diet is a strict elimination diet is so popular for people that have a lot of symptoms that they cannot resolve with other methods. But doing a strict elimination diet, eliminating these inflammatory foods, anti-nutrient foods that are coming from plants. So there are ways to properly prepare your food and make them easier to digest and break down, less toxic, or I find it sometimes easier just avoid them. Also, learning how to be an intuitive eater, I think it's a skill that you can gain over time. Maybe it's if you're in sympathetic dominance, you don't feel what you feel. You can't connect with your own body. But once you learn how to be more resilient, your heart rate variability improves and you are able to be parasympathetic and switch back to sympathetic. So having that resiliency, then maybe you're able to start listening to your body and going, my innate intelligence is telling me I'm eating foods that do not react well in my body. And then I start myself to just not want those cucumbers that my husband just wanted me to make a cucumber cheese with goat cheese salad with olive oil and sea salt. I didn't want the cucumber that I used to love, but now my body says, no, that doesn't taste right to me. Those tomatoes, they don't taste as great unless they're heirloom tomatoes with burrata and olive oil, sea salt, fresh from a local garden. That tastes different in my body. But how you react is going to be different than I react. And if you can learn how to listen to your own intuition, what your body needs without having carb craving, sugar addiction issues, I know me as a unique individual is going to crave different foods than you, and different foods will make me feel satisfied. Like having a larger serving of protein with some healthy fats fills me up. But I am not being so strict and avoiding carbohydrates as I used to because I'm trying to do more high intensity workouts to push myself a little bit more. So I require a little more nature's carbohydrates in my fuel source, in my muscles, to be available when I'm going to go more in intense interval training, when I do master swimming, or when I'm in a 45-minute run workout doing a warm-up, warm down, and doing intervals in the middle, trying to get my heart rate up above 160. Or if on the bike and I'm going to do hill surges, 20, 30 seconds to a minute, and recover, I will need more carbs, and my body will tell me that. But those carbs might be, as I said before in other episodes, some berries or half a banana, which I avoided for many years because bananas are high in sugar. But if I have them with my protein post-workout, I actually feel good. I don't get a headache. If I have some potatoes with my protein that my husband made that are made in healthy fat, bacon fat, and they have some sea salt on them, I like them. In previous years, I'd be so strict on not having any carbohydrates as that because they were carbohydrates. They're bad, but they're nature's carbs. And as I get older, and I'm totally on a tangent right now, but I'm going with it, that as my workouts need to change for my body composition goals, that workout plan of, instead of doing low heart rate zone 2, that is fat burning, I am doing more interval training to help my body being more carb resistant, but I can add in carbs for fueling if I eat them around a workout or post-workout. So, side note, my workouts are different. They're not long, slow distance with purpose and lifting heavy weights. So my nutrition plan is protein and carbs when needed, or some days there are not any potatoes or things like that, might be more of the weekend. But the point is, I'm not craving the vegetables that I used to. And perhaps my body is learning that these lectins, phytates, and oxalates don't do well in my body, but they might be okay for you. But I think everyone should do more of a 4-day rotation diet or not have the same food, especially plant, unless it's once a week or more. So maybe every couple weeks you have that food, but not every day, as people got into for years, spinach, kale smoothies. So let's go back to Shawn's article so you don't hear my rant, tangents, rabbit holes. So these foods that we thought were nutrient dense, healthy, we want to switch our mindset. If you go to my previous episode about protein, to Brad Kearns' nutrient dense food plan sheet, he has this great spreadsheet maximizing the nutrient density. He does have at the bottom of the sheet that there's some foods that are easier to digest, plant foods, and those are going to be more the root vegetables as potatoes and squash. Seaweed, nut butters he has on there, avocado, fermented foods, and those are kefir, kimchi, kubacho, miso, natto, olives, pickles, sauerkraut, tempeh. Probiotics nourish the healthy gut bacteria. So probiotics that I would make my coconut yogurt I was making. And then fruits. So what Shawn Wells is sharing in this great in-depth report that's 21 pages long goes into each food or each anti-nutrient as lectins. So as he says, some people are more sensitive to lectins than others. Your health of your immune system, your GI system, and your microbiome may play a part in how you respond to lectins. So if we're doing a low lectin diet or zero lectin avoidance diet because you have some other issues, that's why we want to do personalized coaching program with clients, because there is not specific foods that everyone needs to avoid or everyone needs to eat. Commonly cited lectins are cause of many autoimmune diseases, chronic inflammation, and obesity. Lectins have received a lot of media coverage and attention over the years. They're a type of anti-nutrients that plants produce naturally in an attempt to ward off anything that tries to eat them. So plants are people too. Lectins were discovered in castor beans, which contain lectin, ricin, and they're so toxic that they can cause death. Other lectins, he says, aren't as toxic as ricin, but still impact our health negatively. So he goes into what lectins are. They're pretty interesting. I'll just summarize this part. They're proteins that, when ingested, seek out carbohydrates to latch onto the gut, bloodstream, or any tissues in the body, forming clumps of cells that cause immune reactions and other negative health effects. So they can attach to certain cells, like the lining of the intestine, damaging the enterocytes, which are the cell lining of the intestine, and inhibiting normal cellular function. These enterocytes are tightly packed together and act as a barrier, preventing toxins and bacteria from entering the bloodstream when it is damaged. Various proteins that are meant to stay in the gut enter into the bloodstream. The gaps between the cells become bigger and result in guess what the word is? Leaky gut. And so we have downstream effects with the leaky gut. But what can affect or impact a leaky gut? Chronic stress. We've talked about just now gluten and lectins, but also alcohol, oxalate, phytates, sugar, allergens, medications, and just a low or not very strong, weak immune system. So having these plant toxins of anti-nutrients may just be adding more stress to your gut that's already having inflammation. So unwanted proteins in the bloodstream can trigger this immune reaction, which in immunocompromised people is a particular problem. When this happens, often chronic inflammation sets in, further aggravating the intestinal tract. So I think you should read this article. He goes on and on about lectins, but the most common side effects of lectins include inflammation. I think a lot of athletes think they're fit and they're healthy on the outside, but not so healthy on the inside because we're eating these foods that we are told are healthy for us. But no, they could be contributing to chronic inflammation. Also, lectins can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, and joint pain. So maybe you are struggling with joint pain, inflammation, fatigue, and it could be because of what you're eating. So we really want to do a diet analysis when I do this with clients in their assessment program, and any new client, a nutritional therapy analysis and a 3-day food and mood log that we look at your motility, your energy, signs and symptoms when you eat certain foods, as well as looking at your exercise type, intensity, duration, and sleep. So we want to see how are you feeling and start to see patterns when I look at your blood chemistry panel, when I look at the nutritional therapy assessment, intake form of signs and symptoms. And then this food and mood log really can give us some great information what might be going on. Just a simple thing of what you're eating every day may be the culprit, on top of maybe exercising the wrong way, not doing enough recovery time. Lectins also cause weight gain. Crazy. So we want to really look at lectins and look at where they're found. So here's what Shawn has. His team makes these amazing infographics. But here's the thing. Lectins. Potatoes. I just said I'm eating more russet potatoes, just maybe once every couple weeks. But if I had these every day, not so good. So the foods highest in lectins are wheat, and I avoid all wheat intentionally. Other grains, beans, legumes, which include soy, peanuts, lentils, and others. Remember, peanuts are not nuts. They're a legume, and they're very high in mold, so I stop eating peanuts. I try to avoid them. Vegetables and fruit. The main culprits here are what's called nightshades. So if you struggle, pay attention how you feel after you eat. Remember, joint inflammation, fatigue, pain, inflammation. After you eat tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes, goji berries, peppers, paprika, and chili peppers are all in the nightshade family. So I never can remember all those because you think nightshade would be, I don't know, things in the underground. But tomatoes, eggplants, potatoes are the main ones. But I don't eat chili peppers, but maybe pay attention if you have too much paprika or chili peppers. But then also there's dairy. Casein A1 is a lectin found in most commercial milks. Now, if you do functional lab testing in my health investigation programs, I ask clients if they want to do a food zoomer from Vibrant Wellness, which we can do, one or more. I always like to do the wheat zoomer for sure with people, but you can do lectins, you can do eggs, corn, dairy, and the dairy, and there's a bunch of other ones you can look up, Vibrant Wellness, but the dairy, Casein A1, that is tested on there, the parts of the food. So zoomers are zooming into the parts of the food that you may be reactive to. So you have to watch out for those nightshades. So Shawn talks about how you can do a simple blood test. So if you look at Ulta Labs, you can order some of these tests. Also, as I said, the zoomers, eating certain foods, and notice, just pay attention. Do I have nausea? Do I have bloating? Do I have headache? Do I have joint pain, diarrhea? Pay attention to how you feel. Now, I need to do that too. So lectin avoidance diet is what Stephen Gundry is popular for, the Plant Paradox book that he wrote. He's I think Dr. Gundry really made lectins more aware of lectins. But what is crazy, it can take up to 2 years for someone to heal their gut. Some people may feel better in days, but once you remove those lectins 100% from your diet, it can take days or up to 2 years. Crazy. So you want to look for foods. Doing a plant-free based diet, try that. Carnivore challenge for 30 days. Or look at adding in lower lectin foods. This includes olives, which we are just brining a whole bunch of ones. We'll have olives for years. Avocados, love avocados. Broccoli, I haven't had so much lately, but I will add that in the wintertime with bacon. Brussels sprouts I just had. Now, I burp up Brussels sprouts afterwards, so I don't think those work well for me. But Brussels sprouts are on here. They're low in calories, but high in many nutrients, especially fiber, vitamin K, and vitamin C. But if you burp them, that's a good sign you don't digest them well. Onions, lettuce, cucumbers peeled, which I just had, and they didn't just taste good to me, so I didn't have them. But you want to make sure you peel them for gut health. So there's also herbs and spices. So anyways, I'll go on, but look at phytates is in here. Those are naturally produced by plants. They're in fact storage form as phosphorus in the seed. And when the plant grows, phytates release the phosphorus nourishing the plant's growth. So the phytic acid is what phytates are. The phytic acid prevents absorption of specific minerals in our gut, reduces digestibility of proteins in our diet. So when phytic acid binds to a mineral, it's called a phytate. Phytates are not digested when we eat them because we lack the enzyme phytase to break it down. So phytic acid binds to calcium, iron, and zinc when ingested, forming complexes that can't actually be absorbed and used by the body, contributing to nutrient deficiencies. So interesting, when you do the blood test, do your comprehensive test, how many people I see are low in calcium, iron, and zinc? Is it H. pylori? Because that will impact the iron and zinc. Or are you eating foods that are high in phytates? So phytates content varies, it says, but they are particularly higher in raw, unsprouted seeds. High amounts of phytic acid are in rice bran, linseed, sunflower, sesame seeds, soybeans, wheat bran and wheat germ, almonds, Brazil nuts, beans. Now, the amount of phytic acid varies in these foods, but the content in almonds can vary up to 20-fold. So I've been eating almond butter, and I've been trying to I just bought actually yesterday, macadamia nut butter and sunflower butter so I can not have almond butter. So good information on there. So you can check that out. And oxalates. What are oxalates? Well, Shawn says they do a great job eliciting adverse health effects on those who eat them. Lectins, oxalate, phytates. If you have an autoimmune issue, a weak immune system, or damaged digestive tract, you might have more problems with oxalates as people do with lectins because your immune system's lower. You can't tolerate as much stressors. So you want to pay attention to avoiding these oxalates and lectins and phytic acid if you're having some issues with inflammation, fatigue, gut issues, low immune system. And again, we can measure your immune system in the GI map, looking at your SIG-A marker, Secretariat IgA. The waste products go to the kidneys to be excreted. The waste products of oxalates is called oxalic acid and is free to bind to minerals. So when oxalates are eaten, they bind to minerals to form crystals called calcium oxalate or iron oxalate, either in the colon, or this can occur in the kidneys or urinary tract. By binding to these minerals in the gut, oxalates reduce their bioavailability and can lead to mineral deficiencies. For most people, all of these oxalates are excreted via urine and feces, but highly sensitive people with diets high in oxalates, they run the risk of developing kidney stones. Oxalates bind to calcium-forming crystals, which accumulate in the urinary tract and lead to formation of kidney stones. About 80% of all kidney stones are formed in calcium oxalates, although there are other forms. So your gut health determines how much oxalate you can absorb and therefore how they affect you. So, antibiotics tend to reduce the amount of this bacteria, leaving more free oxalates. And those with irritable bowel syndrome have higher risk of oxalate toxicity as they are unable to regulate how much oxalates get absorbed. So where do you find oxalates? Look out for these plants with oxalates. Rice bran, wheat, potatoes are on here again. So much for those root vegetables. Buckwheat, spinach, rhubarb, soybeans, almonds. So I don't have potatoes very often, like once a month, but almonds on here again. So oxalates are found in the raw cruciferous vegetables as kale, spinach, broccoli, cauliflower, and radishes have larger amount of oxalates. So research study, they say, is use spinach smoothies to induce calcium oxalate formation. You may want to swap out those morning green smoothies for something else. High oxalate foods include cacao, black pepper, rhubarb, almonds, beans, and they contain the highest amount of oxalates. So the calcium in food is poorly absorbed when combined with oxalates. Spinach contains calcium, but has high amounts of oxalates. So this reduces your calcium uptake. Interesting, when calcium from spinach and calcium come from milk, but when they're eaten together, the calcium from the milk isn't impacted by oxalates. All right, so read Shawn Wells, his guide here. You go to the ingredientologist or on social media on shawnwells.com. Read all about this. Super fascinating. Fascinating. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I just thought that's such a great guide, and I think it's a resource you guys should check out. So let's try looking at a summary of all this. Hold on. Okay, just to continue, another important part on this guide is how to avoid anti-nutrients. So anti-nutrients come from food, and the best way to address the problem is to adjust what you're eating, right? So different food plans you'll hear about out there in functional medicine world, how to reduce these anti-nutrients or remove them completely. So you may have heard of the autoimmune protocol. This is called AIP diet. Another one is paleo primal diet, Whole30, and of course the carnivore diet is the most strict elimination diet. And especially strict as if you use Dr. Ken Berry's the triple B and E challenge is just eating ruminant meat, or he just says beef, but all ruminant meat, eggs, butter, bacon, and he also has smashed fish, which are smashed sardines, mackerels, anchovies, herring, another S, I don't know, smashed fish. So ketogenic diet also can sometimes remove these anti-nutrients. I don't think the ketogenic, some of these grains, if you avoid, but just watch those nut butters, almonds would be on that do not eat list. Okay, so the macronutrient ratios will differ, but there's one main theme here. They're whole foods based. They focused on unprocessed natural foods and avoid processed foods. Limit sugar, and foods that are rich in anti-nutrients are the grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, and some fruits and vegetables are completely eliminated or reduced in these different food plans to reduce their potential negative health effects. So there isn't one size fits all, but you can try a different program, food plan, and try to reduce the anti-nutrient. But if you just want to go plant-free, as I know there's a November challenge, a plant-free challenge, try to focus on getting your carbs from the root vegetables, maybe not those russet potatoes, but other type of roots, squashes, and berries if they're in season. Avocado. Reduce the anti-nutrient content in foods by how you cook them. So you can properly prepare them to, if you don't want to do the strict carnivore diet, to do the full elimination plan and adding some berries and honey and some certain root vegetables may be good carbs for us athletes. But if you don't want to go the extreme, you might want to do cold turkey, see how you feel, then reintroduce foods. But you can soak foods overnight. I think this is easier to avoid them because this is kind of a pain if you're not a chef. But you soak grains, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, even some vegetables. If you soak them overnight, reduces some of the anti-nutrients. So the anti-nutrients are found in the skin of the food that are, if they're water soluble. So if you soak them, you'll dissolve some of those anti-nutrients. So that says 8 to 16 hours might be good. That could reduce lectin content in peas, for example, 38 to 50%. Soaking can also decrease oxalates in leafy green vegetables. So you place them in a bowl, add enough water, cover and soak 8 to 24 hours. Maybe if you're having a specific recipe for Thanksgiving or something, but that's a lot of work. Okay, and then there's also sprouting. Sprouting, taking the plant to a period of its life, germination, when it starts to grow from the seed. So this can take up to a few days. It makes the nutrients in the plants more bioavailable, which means you can absorb them better in your gut. When the seed gets ready to grow, certain anti-nutrients are deactivated. Phytates have been shown to reduce 37 to 81% in various grains, beans, and legumes. So you can do this with most seeds, nuts, beans, legumes, some grains, and you can look up more on the websites. But, it's a lot of work. Rinse every 8 to 12 hours until you see the sprouts appearing. I think that's if you're retired. You have nothing to do. Fermentation is another way. This is a lot of work as well, but things are good. Natural bacteria and yeast begin to digest the carbs in the food. So fermented foods always suggested as degrades the anti-nutrients in plants. So cheese, bread, wine, beer, and kimchi are all examples of fermented foods. You can ferment kidney beans for 48 hours can reduce phytates by 88%. Making traditional sourdough starter, you can soak your grains, beans, legumes that way. So last thing, boiling, peeling, and deseeding, going refined. There's a bunch of suggestions on this guide. So if you want to make it easier, you can just try to do a wide variety, real food plan, animal-based and plant-based, or just go strict animal-based, try it out. I do not. I like to not be strict, but eat what I want. Sometimes that's just meat. Other times I'll have an apple. I just had a sliced apple with some sunflower macadamia nut butter. But again, I can eat too much by eating that and having too much fat. I think I get too many calories versus if I get protein, I eat less because I fill up and I get enough calories in, so I'm not having low energy availability. So what to eat, when, why, how is so important to your performance in life and your sports, but also your future self, because we just spoke about inflammation, joint pain, that not only impacts your performance in your workout tomorrow and your race coming up or your event, but also remember, we want to recreate ourselves now so we can create our future self. So we are living our best life, showing up, being the best version of ourselves as we age. So just because you exercise and you're fit and active doesn't necessarily mean you are healthy from the inside out. So I would work on nutrition and nutritional therapy and varying everything up, looking at getting nutrient-dense foods that are listed on Brad Kearns' sheet. You can go to bradkearns.com and look up the new carnivore score sheet guide, and I'll try to put that link in the show notes. But, wondering, should you avoid plants or not? They're stressor. So if you look at plant toxins, there's mild stress, adaptive response, health benefits. But as we went over these, plants have more negative effects when I read over this guide than positive effects. So I don't know. So I put in a blog post, what are plant toxins, lectins, phytates, FODMAPs. The components of phytates are phytic acid, oxalates, and then summary of some of these foods that are highest in phytic acid and FODMAPs and all that. But just pay attention how you feel. Keep a food log, use Chronometer, do my food and mood log journal for at least 3 days and look at pay attention how you feel. And finding replacements. Maybe you're doing properly soaked nuts and seeds. Maybe you're adding some fresh berries that are a good option for nature's carbs to add in some fuel post-workout or pre-workout. So having your carbs in and around your harder workouts, getting your protein in spread throughout the day, and using fat to you're feeling full and satiated. So I think the saying I had at Keto Gains that protein is your priority, fat is your lever, and carbohydrates you put in there, nutrient timing, so you improve your performance in hard, intense workouts and heavy lifting. So check out all this information. There's a lot of information out there, but I just really wanted to go through what are plant toxins and let you decide, should you cut back? Maybe you are doing too many plants. Maybe you should look at adding fruit instead of plants for your vegetables or for your carbohydrates, and adding in those carbs coming from fruit when you're doing harder workouts. And look at adding your healthy, quality, nutrient-dense foods as red meat and wild caught fish and free-range chickens, and get more from grass-fed beef, and that's where all the nutrients seem to be for me, and egg yolks in the egg. But again, I can't have eggs every day because then I'll be allergic to eggs. So just to finish, Paul Saladino is the one who added honey and fruit into his carnivore variation plan, and I know Brad's talked to him a bunch, and Feldman. There's different people say, vary in those carbs for the fit and active athlete. So everyone's in the fit, high performer, high intensity workouts. I know we're all suggesting a little bit of carbohydrates may help you perform better and nail those fitness goals and body composition goals. Other people will tell you you don't need any carbohydrates. You can get them all from a carnivore diet. I say experiment, figure out what works best for you. I'll say that Paul Saladino on Brad's webpage with this carnivore score sheet said that Paul made an argument that Paul Saladino said that plants can be thought as a similar prescription medication. They come with a package insert of side effects. Just like the fine print on a bottle of pills that say this may cause vomiting, bloating, dizziness, and nausea, the same can be said regarding consumption of plants. And many people have experimented and have experienced relief from these things like lifelong digestive issues and various autoimmune diseases simply by removing them from their diet and upping their organ meat game and focusing on emphasizing different foods. So you can check out Brad Kearns, his carnivore score sheet. I'm not an organ meat person. I know he does supplements too. I think Brad does liver. I can't remember. But work on works best for you. I heard someone else say this. My diet is not going to be the same as your diet. So everyone needs to look at what works best for them based on your life, your stressors, your schedule, when you're awake, when you're sleeping, your activity level during the day, what type of workouts that day. And it should vary. Your nutrient profile should vary. Your calories are going to vary when you work out and not work out. So you're going to adjust. And that's what I do with the Pinoy metabolic testing. We can learn what is your metabolism without exercise, and then what happens when you do exercise, and then what type of exercise you are doing. All right, that's my kind of exploration start for you for animal-based diet versus a plant-based diet. Should you avoid plant toxins? So questions, comment, feedback, and ideas for future episodes, let me know. Email me via my website, debbiepotts.net, and reach out on social media. Instagram is my main place, Coach Debbie Potts, or on Facebook. Let's chat soon. Thanks for listening. Hey, my fellow aging endurance athletes, just a reminder, if you like what you listened to today, make sure to share this episode with your community. Head to debbiepotts.net to set up a free discovery call to learn more about my personalized coaching programs, especially if you are on a mission as myself to improve the aging process and start training to be my best self when I am 80, 90 years old. So I am on a mission to live my best life and be my best self the second half of my life. So if you're on the same mission as me, head over to my website and YouTube channel to learn more ways to improve the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us continue and grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and see you next time.